everyone, welcome back to the Midwest Stitches YouTube channel. My name is Danielle and this is my channel where I talk all about my crafting adventures. Today is December 22nd, 2024, and today I have so many things to show you here on the table. Mostly works in progress. I only have 2 finished objects, but a lot of stuff I've been working on over the last couple weeks. My advent blanket that I'm going to get into more detail about. I changed a couple things since the last time you saw it. So let's just jump right on in with all of that. You can find me on Instagram at midwest.stitches, and you can find all of my project pages for my knit and crochet projects on Ravelry at Midwest Stitches. So what should we start with? Okay, so I'll start with the finished objects, just 2 to show you. So I did finish these socks, which you guys saw the last time. One was done. They are both finished. This is Ribbon Candy from Yarnable. I believe it was December 2020. I think that's what I said the last time. The December 2020 color called Ribbon Candy. And these are for a gift, which I talked about the last time, so now I can gift them before Christmas. And yeah, the heel that I did is the strong heel. I talked about that the last time. It's basically top-down Flegel heel. The directions are the same for both. It's just if you're doing it toe up or cuff down. And I tried this on, even though this isn't for me. I tried the sock on before it was finished, the first one, and I'm not really a fan of this heel, and I think it's because I feel like something is lacking in the back, like here, to make it hug the back of your heel. I don't necessarily think that I need a heel flap and gusset for the extra strength that it gives, like the padded fabric, because I don't wear my socks often enough, or in like tennis shoes, where that part of the sock would get worn out. But I do think the negative ease that a heel flap and gusset provides helps to hug it to your foot. These just felt very kind of loose, and you know, I don't know. It was fun to experiment with this and see this style, because I have done a Flegel heel before, so I was familiar with that toe up, but I'd never done the strong heel. So it was fun to try something new. And I do know what is it called? The Vanilla is the New Black sock. That is a Flegel and strong heel type. She has a toe up pattern and a cuff down pattern that use this type of heel in a different way. There's a little bit of ribbing that's added to the pattern. I don't own that pattern, so I can't speak to how it fits, but I would imagine the ribbing that she adds helps with this issue that I'm talking about. So maybe in the future I will buy that pattern, try it out, and see what I think. If you've tried the Vanilla is the New Black sock pattern with that version of the strong heel, let me know in the comments below what you think. Sorry about that, I got interrupted. Okay, so yeah, if you have tried the Vanilla is the New Black pattern with that heel, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'd be curious to get your opinion on the fit versus just a regular strong heel without the ribbing. So anyway, those are done. They are a Christmas gift, so now obviously I can gift them here in a couple of days. So happy to check that off of the list. So the next finished object is another dishcloth. Here it is. So this is Tunisian crochet again, and look how tiny it is. It's so little. This is like 6 inches. It just barely fits. I mean, I have bigger hands, but it just like barely fits in my hand. So it'd be maybe more like a napkin. So I know I talked the last time about figuring out hook size, and for a knit version, trying out different needle sizes because I wasn't liking what I was getting. And for this one, I tried a couple different sizes. I tried, what was it? I think it was the 3.5 one that I showed. I wound up not using that one. I wound up using the 4mm crochet hook, and it still gives a very dense fabric. And I don't know, this is much smaller than the versions I'd made previously with the different yarn, because this is thinner cotton yarn. This is Knit Picks Dishy. And I'm trying to figure out, I don't think I will use the Tunisian crochet version for these just because they are turning out so small. I could try to alter the pattern to increase the number of stitches, and maybe that's something I will try, but I'm still working on a knit version that I will show you here in Works in Progress and talk about that. I've only gotten a couple segments in, so we're not completely done, so I don't have a finished product to kind of talk about the pros and cons and what version I like or what I'm going to settle on. So anyway, this is it. This is one that I can just put in the stack. And like I said, I'm not using these as dishcloths. If you're new here, I'm using them more as like unpaper towels, because I like to use like Scotch-Brite pads or non-scratch little sponges of that kind when I wash dishes. I don't like to use a cloth. I don't know. That's just not my preference. I feel like it doesn't really scrub anything, but maybe that's just me. So 2 finished objects. That's all I have for finished objects. Okay. So works in progress. There's a lot to start with. What do I want to start with? Okay, I will show you my dish towel. I was wanting to say dishcloth, but it's a dish towel that I started. I've gotten to the part where I'm increasing and decreasing at the same time I'm creating the side, and I did use up the cotton yarn that I had from the previous one. So here it is. I added that in the middle. So as you can see, this side is where I'm increasing still to create this side. So it's coming along. I think the last time I measured this a few days ago, because I'm only doing about 2 rows a day just to keep it easy on the hands. I think I had 17 inches, and I measured one of our dish towels, and those are about 24 inches long. So I've got a few inches left to go on this one. So it might not get done by the end of the new year. I don't know. That was my plan, but if it doesn't, it'll be fine. It'll be done soon enough, and we'll call that good. Okay. There's just so much, honestly. I have like 6 bags sitting here. I have so many works in progress right now. It's kind of crazy. Side note, normally if you've been around for a while, you know I don't have a lot of works in progress going at once because it's just too much for my brain. I can't like pick one, you know. I try to dedicate a little bit of time to each, but then I feel like I never make any progress on any one of them, so that method doesn't really work for me. But right now I just went a little crazy with the cast-ons. So we'll go with my Hexi blanket. I've got it laying here. So the last time you saw it, I only had one connecting brown tan Hexi, but it has grown. I have added a lot more. So here it is. So here's what I've added. All of these, I've got 3 flowers attached. And this, I was doing one a day, one connecting Hexi a day, but the last week or so I've been concentrating on a different project a little bit more, and I'll explain that. That's my Advent project. I'll explain why, but this hasn't gotten any work in like a week, so I'm hoping after my Advent project, it's not going to be done. I will say that. It's a blanket. It's years away from being done with scraps, but the ones that I'm doing for this season, when those are done, then I will go back to working on this and connecting all of the flowers that I have made, and then reevaluate how many more do I need to make for it to be the size that I'm wanting, etc. I haven't figured that out quite yet, so we'll see when we get there. Hopefully by the next time I record, I will have a better idea of, you know, maybe where this blanket is going. Like I said, Previously, I would like to have this version finished next year. My fingering weight one, that one probably won't be done for a very long time because obviously those are smaller. It's going to take a lot longer to make them, put them together. This is DK, so it's going to grow very rapidly as we put it together. So there's that. I'm still very pleased with this project. I'm loving the color that I chose to connect them with. This is Kimber's Cozy Creations Pop-Tart Crust. And it's just a nice neutral tan. There's no pink undertones. I think what she told me is she does have a color that has a pink undertone, and a lot of your like tan colors will have that in there. And I didn't want that because I knew I was going to have pink yarn or some versions of pink in this blanket, so I didn't want that to maybe take away from those. I don't know how to explain that, but I'm super happy with that choice of color. My next work in progress that I will show you, I have some socks that I'm working on. And here's the first one. Since we're already towards the end of the Advent season, I feel safe to show this. I just showed it on my Instagram, but I did finish the first sock in my Freckled Whimsy Advent skein that I got from Granite State Yarns. She shared her half with me. And this is her yarn, and it's called Is It Cake? So I wasn't I guess this is called Merry and Bright. I didn't get the tag with it with the name on it, so I didn't know what it was called. But this is called Merry and Bright, and I just wasn't expecting a rainbow color for a Christmas color. I don't know why. It just didn't occur to me, but maybe it would have if I'd had the tag with the name on it. But so this is done. I have not started the second one yet. I think I finished this first one. I think it was probably like 8 or 9 days into December. I just went ahead and finished it off. I didn't have the patience to do the one stripe a day thing. So I got the first one done. Second one will be cast on soon, but honestly, I'm not really in any hurry to finish these, and that's very unlike me to just kind of be like, I'm just not in any hurry to finish them. So I will cast that on probably soon, but I don't know. I'll probably just work on it here and there. This next pair of socks that I have started, I am like over the moon about. I am so happy with this colorway. I'm so happy that I bought it. This was my birthday cast on because my birthday is December 13th. And to me, this looked like a cake with sprinkles on it, you know, chocolate icing, all that kind of stuff. So here's the first sock. I just finished it last night. And this is Stitchin' with Yarn. It is called Candy Castle. And I love all of these colorways. And for this one, I did the garter stitch edge heel flap. And I'm really pleased with how that turned out. I think I've done that a couple times before. It's been a while. And actually, I think the last one that I did, it was on a black heel. Do not recommend that. That was awful. So after that, I didn't do it for a little while. But this one I'm very pleased with. I love these so, so much. The color's just amazing. So her winter collection that she came out with was Candyland inspired. And this was, I think, was this part of that? Or it was going to be, but she didn't, I can't remember what she said, if she didn't get it released in time or dyed up in time. But anyway, this was part of her last shop update, I think for the year, or one of them a couple weeks ago. So I got it before my birthday, and then I decided I was going to cast this on because this is a 50 gram that I got from her. So I will be casting on the second sock for that today and get that one started. So that's two half-finished pairs of socks, and I currently have 2 on the needles. So my first one is in one of my favorite bags I've ever made, this half and half Grinch bag that I made a couple years ago. I love this thing. So this yarn, I will show you the yarn first. It's very, very neon bright. This is called Grinch from Legacy Fiber Arts. And it was a micro sock set, and it came with this pink mini. And I just got through the gusset decreases the other night because I was working on the Candy Castle sock, trying to get that done. So here is what we have so far, and it is very, very bright. I don't think it's going to show. I have these overhead lights in this room. It's going to kind of distort the color a little bit. And I got this Progress Keeper. Oh, there we go. I got that from 3 by the Sea Designs. I saw that in their update, and I knew I had to have it because it's the classic Grinch, like these prints, and that, I love that. So I knew I had to have it. I'm not really a Progress Keeper person. Like, I have a bunch of them that I've kind of either made over the years or collected or gotten as like a part of swaps or something. But I never really use them. Like, I always forget to reach for them on projects. So this time I was like, okay, I'm definitely putting this on here once I get far enough that there's something for it to hang on to. So far I'm very pleased with these. I'm going to use the pink mini for the toe, and hopefully I can get this one done. I'm thinking either today, probably tomorrow is more realistic, since it's already like 3 o'clock in the afternoon here. But that's my goal, is to get a lot of those second socks cast on in the next couple of days and just kind of work on them throughout the rest of the month. I'm not really stressing about having all of the pairs done before the end of the year. I'm just enjoying working with my stash and this Christmas yarn and casting on a few different kinds of Christmas yarn and colors. So I'm not putting any pressure on myself to rush through and knit as fast as I can and make sure that they're done before Christmas or before the 31st or any of that crazy stuff. And that's mostly because my Advent blanket has taken over most of my time, and that's actually the project I'll show you here. I got 2 more, and then we'll talk about that because there's quite a bit of information that I want to give on that project, so I want to save it for last. So my last sock that I will show you is, I showed these last time, but I've gotten some work done on them. And this is the socks for my grandpa. They're not going to be done by Christmas, obviously, because I'm still on the first one, but I have given them some attention. So this is what we have so far. This is Cascade Heritage in the moss colorway. And I am about 45 rounds in. And for his socks, I do a 25 round cuff, and then for the leg, he likes them really long, so I do 75 rounds. So we've got still a bit of ways to go on the first sock. So I am hopeful, that I can have them done here within, I don't know, maybe the next month or so I can send them off in the mail. But again, I'm not putting any pressure on myself. I'm just kind of picking them up and doing, like, say 10 rounds here and there. And, that adds up a lot quicker than you think because you just don't realize it at the time. Okay, so before we get to the blanket, the Advent blanket, I want to show you the dishcloth that I'm working on currently. So I am doing a knit version again of the shaker dishcloth, and I thought I had more than 2 segments done, but I only have 2 done. I haven't picked this up in like 2 weeks. I got it started, and this was actually after, so I started, let's see, I tried out a 3.5 millimeter needle. Didn't like that. I went down to a 3.25. Didn't like that either. And then it occurred to me, which I don't know why it didn't before, but this is comparable, to me it's comparable to a DK. If I hold it against a DK sock yarn, the thickness of it is pretty similar. It's pretty spot on. So then I thought, why wouldn't I use the same needle size that I use for DK socks with this yarn? I don't know why that didn't occur to me before, but I think I was just trying to follow the pattern. And the pattern has you use, I think it's Knit Picks Comfy Worsted that she used for that, which is a cotton acrylic blend. And obviously I didn't want to use that, but so it must be a thicker yarn, I'm guessing. I've never worked with that yarn, so I don't know. But anyway, so I am using a 2.75 millimeter, and so far I think this is going to work. So here's what we have. So here's the first 2 segments. I wanted one in each color to kind of show. And if you recall, right here where you connect the colors in this first, I don't have the other one, it's downstairs, so I can't show you for comparison. But anyway, I'm hoping this trend continues, but here, there's a lot less gapping for it. And I think it looks much neater, much cleaner. And I tried to use this, I tried on DPNs. I have, I think they're like, I want to say they're 6-inch DPNs. And it was not, there's not a lot of stitches on the needle for this project, but those short of DPNs, I was just afraid, because when you're going back and forth, and at one point or a couple points in time when you're doing the segments, there are only like 2 stitches on the needle, so I was afraid that they were just gonna like slide right off. So I'm using just a 32-inch. This is probably way too long. I'd probably use a shorter one, but I'm pretty happy so far with using the circular. It's not bothering me to use that length of circular, and I'm excited to get this done to see what the finished product looks like because I do like this knit version. It is very easy to work on without the picot edge. I will say that. I just obviously, like, if you saw the last episode, I was not happy with the joining, where the colors join, and there being some holes, and so fingers crossed that this is the solution using the right needle size for my gauge and for the yarn. So I know a lot of people use Knit Picks Dishy all the time, and I've, a lot of people use up to 4 or 5 millimeter needles, and maybe that works if you're just doing plain garter stitch, but for this particular pattern, I think you need to go down a size or 2, but that's just my opinion. Let's get into a project that has just completely stolen my heart. And it is going to look very different than the last time you saw it. There were lots of changes that were made, but I'm very happy with them. So this is going to be hard to show, but which end did I start on? Okay, I started on this one. So here is my advent blanket, and I've got one whole strip done. Look at this. This is where I started. This is the bottom. And these are all the colors that I've added so far. And there's the bottom. So, if you recall, I think last time I had a fingering weight version going for this. Well, I quickly scrapped that. I was not enjoying that. So I went fingering weight heel double, so DK. And so, okay, where do I start? So that's what I switched. Fingering to fingering weight held double, holding the minis double, along with the contrast color. I am using Cascade Heritage in the snow colorway for this. It's showing very bright, but it's more of a cream color, like a creamy off-white. And the first strip that I did, I had a lot more yarn, but I started a different project and did not frog it to do this. So we started with this one, and I actually didn't have this bottom section on here, and I'll explain why that's there in a second. But so then I did this color, and this actually used up the entire scrap that I had left. So then I went to the next color, and I wound up knitting this entire color. Was like, it went from here to probably here, this length, because my initial thought was, oh, I'll just use up the whole scrap, add the contrasting color in the middle, and just kind of build the blanket that way. And then when I got done with that third color, I was like, I really do not like the way this is gonna look. So what I did was I took the needles out, I counted the rows for this one, because this, I counted the rows for this one because it is obviously bigger than this one. And this is what I went with. So I went with this many garter ridges for the rest of them. And that's working perfect for me. Mine aren't really squares, they're rectangles. So the blanket is called Little Squares Knitted by Julie Harrison. And you're supposed to make squares like this, but mine are more rectangle. So I changed the pattern in that way. And you could really do however many rows that you wanted. There's no, she has a specific amount in the pattern that you do, but you can change it obviously. And the reason I changed from using the whole mini to a set number is mainly because the aesthetic of it. I love that they're even, except for the bottom one, of course, but I love that they're the same amount, the same size, and then these are obviously the same size too. And then as I build the blanket out in strips, they'll all be even. Like, you'll have a row, you know, of like, it'll go across and they'll all be next to each other, if that makes sense. So it'll be very aesthetically pleasing. And after frogging that, that felt important to me. So that's what I did. And then I got to the top, which I had to reuse. This is a color, a Barbie colorway. So that was this day. And I had a lot of that left over. So I wound up reusing it for this day because I think whatever this day was, I didn't have quite enough to finish these rectangles. So mine are taking about 5.5 grams. So I've just made sure to, if I think my scrappy that I'm using for the day for my calendar is not quite that amount, I will weigh it and see, and set that aside. So I wound up reusing this color. And then what happened is in the pattern, you're not supposed to knit this top part or the bottom, but I did, because my thought was, after looking at the pattern very thoroughly, is you're supposed to knit, you start with the color block at the bottom, do your contrast color, on so forth, you end with a color, and then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to add one strip on the side of the contrast color, because eventually you stitch these strips together. And then once you have them all stitched together, you're supposed to go back, pick up the outer edge, go to the bottom, pick up the entire bottom edge of the blanket, and knit the border basically, go up, do the next side, and then do the top, or however you want to do it in that manner. Basically, you're just going around and adding on the border that way. Well, my thought was, okay, why don't I just add a strip to the bottom, add a strip to the top, and you're only doing however many stitches wide, knitting that, binding it off, and then just pick up, you know, your stitches for the sides to include this. And then when it's all together, it'll look like one strip. It might not turn out to look the best. I don't really know yet with that method, but that's what I did. So that's how I changed the pattern. I put the white strip at the bottom, put the white strip at the top, and this is my first strip. So it'll be the outer edge strip on the blanket. And obviously, like I said, you're only supposed to add one side of the border, but I decided to add the other side to this one because obviously I'm not going to go back and knit this top border. It will already be knit in with my strips as I go along. And then adding this in, the side is already done too. So by the time I get to the very last strip, I will knit it the exact same way as this one. So I've got this one on this side, the very last one, it will be knit just like this, where I do both strips and then seam this strip to the one next to it, and that's it. And it'll be done. So to me, that seemed like a much better way to approach the construction, because the last strip, once you knit this and you seam it together, your blanket's done. And that to me was just like kind of a light bulb moment where I was like, ooh, that will make this an even more satisfying project, because as you're going along and making it, you're one step closer to it being finished, as opposed to, okay, you've seamed them together, you could seam them as you go, but then you have to go back and you have to do the border on all four sides. And let me tell you, doing these, I don't even know how many stitches it was. I didn't count, but it took a lot of time. And this is only 10 garter rows. I'm sorry. It's 10 rows of 5 garter stitches for these ones that I did. It took a lot of time to knit that much back and forth. So I can't imagine doing that for an entire width of a blanket because you don't know how many strips it's going to be wide. I mean, because you could really make this however big you wanted, however long, however wide. The sky's really the limit with this pattern. So that was just kind of my thought process. But, you know, if you do this pattern, if you buy it, you can do it however you want. So my first strip is done. That's a long-winded way of saying my first strip is done. I am so, so happy with this. I was playing a little bit of catch up on this, which is why a lot of my other projects kind of sat, because I had a lot of flip-flopping back and forth with changing my mind, where I went from fingering weight to DK, and then I didn't want to knit the whole mini. So once I finally found my groove and what I wanted to do, I wanted to get it done. I wanted to knit and be current with the current day, and yeah. So I am very, very pleased with this. It's very squishy. It's very, it's just lovely. Like, I love this. And I will say, I had a DK jelly roll going for a while there. If you've been around for a while, you probably remember that. And I don't have that project anymore. I gifted it to someone else to finish because I just wasn't enjoying it. And while this is kind of similar to that, it's not. It's not, in that you do one strip at a time. So it remains very light, very portable. I don't know, like, once you get so many strips into the DK version of the jelly roll, or I mean, even maybe the fingering weight one, because you're joining them as you go, it becomes very cumbersome to flip it back and forth as you're doing the rows, and, you know, very heavy and just kind of awkward to work with. But for this one, you don't have to worry about that. Like, I will probably, you know, seam my next one to this one when I finish it, and have them seam together, you know, work kind of in that fashion. But I don't have to knit on the next strip while they're attached to this, if that makes sense. I can seam these, put them aside, work on the current strip, and it's not heavy. I can keep it in a smaller bag. It's easy to kind of cart around and just work on. This just really resonates with me. So if maybe that was a pattern you looked at too, like the jelly roll blanket, and maybe you're just like not feeling it, maybe that's why. Maybe you're like me, and that's why it's very heavy. It's kind of awkward to work on because you're making this big, huge thing at once and having to turn it back and forth every, like, however many stitches, and it gets kind of cumbersome after a while. So I just wanted to explain that because I did have, you know, those thoughts on it, and it just kind of came into my brain of, that's why you didn't like that project. That was why I didn't enjoy working on that project after a while, is because it was so awkward and heavy and bulky. So this I will love working on. I will say there's only one thing I'm not enjoying about this is this Cascade Heritage yarn. So this is the same as the Moss colorway. It's the Cascade Heritage Solids. And like I said, it's in the Snow colorway. But holding this double, I am not enjoying it at all. I will tell you that. It splits a lot. It's very kind of fluffy and floofy. I haven't worked with this before, so this is new to me, but that's the one thing that I don't like. I'm wishing I would have gotten, you know, a hand-dyed 75-25 or something. Even though those are definitely more expensive than this, I think it would have been worth it in terms of not having the yarn split, not be extra fluffy. It is very soft, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it because I don't have an example to show. So let me show you the current strip that I'm working on. So that was days 1 through, technically 1 through 12. However, I didn't put day 2 in because that was a kind of a tan color that I threw the mini in my bag for the fingering weight Hexi blanket. So, and then I added leftovers from the other one. So I think it's technically 12 strips, but the bottom one is smaller. I'll explain what I'm going to do about that. So this is days 1 through 12 technically, minus the tan one that I said I wasn't going to add in. And here's my second strip. So this is today's color. Yeah, I've got some ends to weave in too. That's another thing. I actually don't mind all the ends that I'm weaving in either. So there's another one. We're just going down the line. A 4th of July colorway. I mean, we've got a little bit of everything. Roller rink. A lot of these I remember. So there's this one. And as you can see, I have it on some Stitch Saver. So I did a provisional cast on. So I am tangled. Oh my. So since the original strip that I did, the first block was smaller than the blocks after that, I decided, okay, I'm going to make it the exact same way and have all of the small blocks be at the bottom of the strip. But for me to do that, because what I'm doing is when I finish the white, so what I'll do with this one is I will pick up the stitches, add the white block, and then on the very last stitch as I'm binding it off, I will turn it, and then with that very last stitch not bound off, I will start to pick up stitches this way, and then when you come back around to this corner, you just knit that extra stitch together with the very last one. You just knit them together, knit two together, and do it that way. To me, that's easier than having to add in another bit of yarn. It doesn't make any sense to me to do that, especially the way that I'm adding in the white to the top and the bottom. So I'm doing it that way. And I want, since I want these to be, I want this, that, since I want this block to be at the bottom, and I want to construct it where I pick up the stitches with the yarn attached, I can't do that at the top end because you bind off on the right side. So that leaves my bind off on this, side. That means my last stitch would be here. And then, you know, I would have to attach it the other way because you're attaching your strips like this. You have one with an edge, one without an edge, and then you seam them together. So for mine, just because of the weird way that I wound up working it, if all of your squares are the exact same amount, you don't have to do it this way. But of course, my version had to end up being overly complicated because why not? So anyway, that's the way I'm having to do it. So I will, when I get to the last color on this one, I will bind off the top and have a white strip here. And then I will go back, pick up these stitches, do the border. And this second strip will only have one white border, not two. And then I think what I'm going to do is, after that is, the border is on, I'm going to seam them together because I want to kind of build this blanket as I go. So with that blanket, I'm going to seam them together, the first and second strip, and then I'm going to start a third strip, even though technically my advent I'll be past the 24 days because I did have leftovers. Because like I said, my bag of minis was anywhere from 5 to 10-ish grams. There were a couple that were like 15 grams. So here's all of the leftovers that have enough yarn for me to do at least one more of the bigger blocks. I have this one, this one. So all of these will make enough for another, at least half a strip. And I'm just dropping stuff everywhere. So I will at least have half of a third strip going, and I might finish it off too, and then put the blanket away until next year. I don't know yet. I haven't decided that. But I did have additional leftovers, and here these are. So all of these were left over, and these are not quite enough to make a big color block section, but they are small enough or enough for the bottom section. So because I want to use up all of these scraps that I had from this particular advent, I don't want to put these back into my scrap bag. So what I'm gonna do, because there's 5 colors here, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to knit all of these up into that small bottom block, and I will have one for the next strip, add these other leftovers, but the other 4, they will just sit in the bag until I get to them. And I'm gonna put all of the stitches on hold with this stitch saver. So I got a big roll of this. It's just that tubing. You don't have to, you know, like the knitting barber cords, but you can buy this on Amazon by like tons of yards. I don't even know how many are on here, but I'm just gonna cut a piece and put the top and bottom of those small color blocks on hold, and then I will have the beginnings of at least 4 more strips ready to go. So whenever I feel like working on it, whether it's next year at Christmas or the Christmas after, or sometime during the year, if I feel like, okay, I want to add another color into a new strip or whatever, I already have it ready to go. So I thought that was a great way to just have things ready to go for the next few strips for this blanket and use up all of these scraps that I had for this DIY advent. So if you're thinking about doing it, probably don't do it in this manner, you know, where you have at least one different size block than the others. I wanted to say that one of the main reasons I decided to make all of these the same, minus the bottom, all of these are the same, is because when it comes to knitting this border on here, because you're picking up stitches in garter, it makes it so easy, because if I know all of these are the same amount of garter rows, I know exactly how many to pick up. I don't have to worry about, am I picking up enough stitches? So it just makes the process a lot easier. And I know you could do, you know, where you create that selvage edge on your strip to make it easier to pick up stitches. However, I didn't want to do that. I like how the join looks with the garter. And it's honestly really easy to pick up the stitches, and the back doesn't even look too bad either. If you are consistent with how you pick it up, I like it. Like, it was enjoyable. Like, I didn't have an issue. As long as you are consistent with how many garter ridges you do per block, it's super easy to go back and just count them. Count how many you're picking up for each block, and that's all I did. Those are my projects. Next time I will have at least 2 strips to show you, possibly the start of the 3rd one if I have it started by then for that blanket. Like I said, I'm loving it. If you've been thinking about doing this pattern, I highly recommend it. I am doing the construction differently, like I said, but you could just follow the pattern as is. So I will say that without looking at it, coincidentally, this is how big the blocks are in the pattern. I won't tell you how many they are, but this is the size of them if you're curious. This is the exact amount of garter rows that is in that pattern. So just to give you a reference. I think that is all for today. I did get a few things in the mail, but nothing that I'm going to show. You'll see those later on when I work with them and when I knit with them, and I'll talk about them then. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know that was a lot to go through, but like I said, I've got a lot of things going right now. I do have another blanket that I'm working on that I hope, my granny square blanket, I'm hoping I will have that done by the next time I record and I can show you the finished project. It is so huge and heavy, and I am so close to having it done. So that will be nice to check that off the list and, you know, say it's completed. That we'll save that for next time because it's downstairs right now. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you aren't subscribed to my channel already, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.